All right, welcome Third Rock listeners to the Branding Laboratory. Each week, I'm going to sit down with CEOs and founders who aren't just running businesses, they're making waves and changing the game on this rock we call home. And we're not here for surface level conversation. We are going to dig deep to uncover what drives them, the problems they're solving, and how they're building brands that truly connect and make a difference. And if they're still figuring it out, I'm going to help them find their North Star, because that's what I do best through these conversations. Cut through the noise, pull back the covers, and get to the heart of what makes a brand stand out. I'm your host, Deevo. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for the Brand Storyteller, Master Photographer, and Brand Strategist and Serial Entrepreneur. And my mission is to help leaders and small businesses cut through the noise to tell their genuine stories and build brands that truly connect and resonate with their ideal audience. This isn't a one-sided monologue podcast. It's a raw, candid conversation with real people doing real shit. And if you want to know how to elevate your brand, you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the Branding Laboratory. I'm your host, Deevo. Excited to be here for, we've had 3 shows in the last 2 days, some really powerful guests. Today's will hopefully prove to be no exception to that rule. It's wild. You know, I've been in the business for a long time, running as an entrepreneur, almost 15 years now, and it's wild how many people build businesses that on the surface really look successful, but somehow they feel hollow. And, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about growing and scaling and branding and automation and systems, and there's all the different variables that go into running a good business. But the truth is that most people don't really have any idea why they're doing any of the things that they're doing. They're just sort of running through a system, running through a checklist of items. I don't take that comment lightly. Just because you're making a lot of money and having a lot of success doesn't necessarily mean you're living out your true purpose of what your soul intended you to do. And not to get existential, but it really does have a big impact on the longevity and the sustainability of how you operate your business. So I'm going somewhere with this. My guest today is Lee Black, and he has a really cool journey that we're going to talk a little bit about in a minute here. But he's figured out this metaphorical why the hard way. He has lost people. He's lost people that he's loved to addiction, and that's the cornerstone of this conversation. And it didn't just alter his perspective of everything. It sort of became the fuel for everything that he's building right now on this planet and the impact that he hopes to make. So what he did is he started it's a really cool story. He started a substance abuse and mental health facility to help people rebuild their lives. And he started getting phone calls from other facilities sort of asking, how did he do what he's done, basically? How did he create what he's created so magically? So he realized that through this process, he could actually help other people of the same ilk do the same. So it was community, not competition. And that ultimately became this Antilles digital media company that he's running, which is for lack of a better word, it's a marketing agency that helps good humans in one of the toughest industries actually make a difference. So one of the things I loved about Lee is just sort of reading his onboarding documentation. So thank you, by the way, he's here already for taking the time to fill that out, is he doesn't play in theory, which is a huge application to really sort of consider. He plays about, and is in the sandbox of impact and results. But most importantly, really centered around this whole idea of humanity and propping other people up and supporting other people, which is, is a huge variable in everything I talk about: community, collaboration, creation. That's the point of this podcast, really, is to share their zone of genius, my guest's zone of genius, with you. So he sits at the intersection of business, soul, integrity, and community. And I really love his story, which is why we agreed to have him on the show. And so, Lee, I just want to start right there. First of all, welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's going to be a cool conversation. My first question really is, and I put it in quotes, when did marketing stop being about clicks and data and conversions and really start being about saving other people's lives?
That's a great question. I think when you have a real life impact, and that's one of the things that I know that sets us apart, is where we talk about actually owning and starting a facility, doing the dirty work. It didn't become marketing. You say get clients, but when I can shift it from a client and put a face to it, put a family to it, put a story to it. They say you're not supposed to take things personally in business, right? But it drives you to understand that marketing isn't just about getting a click or getting someone to sign up. The story behind that person signing up or going through is someone that could be me. It could be you. Everyone knows someone that struggles, mental health, addiction, doesn't matter what that is. We always know. I mean, we do a lot with veterans, and 22 veterans, commit suicide every day.
How many is that? 20? Did you say 22?
20, yeah, the 22. Yeah, the 22 veterans. when I started my facility, I would work with people that typically, oftentimes, we took Medicaid, which a lot of people are stigmatized with, or there's this stigma around that. And people don't want to work with them because, well, there's just a type of a demographic that I just don't want to work with. And for us, being a straight white male, I was like, if I really impact my community in Charlotte, where I grew up, I said, I'm gonna go and work with people that typically are stigmatized against. So when we took Medicaid, we know here it's going to be people that typically don't have jobs, that need on government assistance, which would be people of color and women, because white men are more likely to have a job with private insurance. So for me, it's like, if I really want to make a difference, I have to do that, not just talking about or posting something on Facebook. I actually go and live that. And in doing so, when I would meet people and see them day one, answer that phone call at 1 a.m, someone in crisis, someone that hit rock bottom. I mean, the biggest stories where I have where it's not marketing, it's not a phone call. I answered the phone call. Someone called at 3 a.m. I answered it, and she goes, "Are you a robot?" I said, "No, I'm a real person." She's like, "I've called 3 or 4 other places and I just need help." And I said, "I'm going to help you because I can tell that you're tired of being tired." And she just cried. And I don't even know this person's name at the time. She's like, "I'm just worried." And I just said that. And she was able to come in. I was able to meet with her and her family. She went through part of our program. And then her family came, her mom and dad came, and they came and they hugged me. They shook my hand. They knew who I was before I even knew who they were. And I'm like, this isn't just click. It's not just a call. Like, we're saving not individuals, but families. Mm-hmm. And that to me was when it became so much more and so much more powerful. It kind of started the evolution of where I'm at. And then where I know where I want to go from here.
You said something in the beginning of that conversation. We're not supposed to take things personally. I don't really know who believes that. I mean, I've heard that before. It's hard for me, especially as an entrepreneur in the industries that I play in, to not take things personally, because you sort of get tied up and vested in the success of the people that you're collaborating with. And so I do take things personally, and I appreciate that sentiment. If I can, before I sort of go into some other questions, because I want to learn a little bit more about your views and your philosophies and beliefs, tell me a little bit, if I can, just be a little bit nosy on the more personal side. What was the trajectory? Like, how did you get to this space? I know you've had some heartwarming things that have occurred to you, some tragedies that have occurred to you. Can we talk a little bit about that? Just sort of how those events, those experiences have shaped kind of where you are in the sandbox you're playing in today?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. So grew up in Charlotte. Parents divorced when I was 2. So I was raised by pretty much a single mom, being an older brother. I had an uncle, family member, that in and out of prison my whole life, substance abuse. I saw that at an early age, how it impacted my mom. Still too young to really understand it until I got older. My grandfather had long-term dementia, Alzheimer's, and my mom left her job to go take care of him. And I was probably 16, and my mom came home and she sat me down and she said, "Lee, I think I have a drinking problem." She's like, "I'm getting so upset having to deal with my grandfather, having her father, your grandfather, that I've started to drink to kind of make it easier for me. And I don't want that to continue." So at a very early age, I saw 2 people that I knew of, one person that continuously didn't make the right decision, then another person that comes out and just talks about that and is open about it. And I mean, I was 15, 16 at the time. I didn't really know what it meant until much later, the impact that had on me till much later. But just seeing that, and then, my mom's been sober now for, 22 years. But just seeing that at an early age and seeing those 2 dynamics play out completely different. And then it went into, I worked in business. I was a business banker. I was with BB&T, I was with Truist, and I just worked with business owners every day. So I worked with people that continuously always were finding problems and then providing solutions and then implementing that and making it better and then iterating that. And I just really love that because every person I worked with was different. Everyone had their own vision. The one thing I will tell you is that really kind of propelled me to where I'm at is every single successful business person that I ever met, they never became successful doing what they started out to. There was always a pivot at some point. There was always a change. And to me, that showed resiliency. That showed you have to be open. You have to be able to say, "Hey, maybe this is a change." And a lot of that goes back to the conversation I had with my mom, where she's like, "Hey, I'm going down this path. I need to change. I'm starting to see these things." And now her life's, better for that. So when it got into that business side, it was great. Continued to do that. But we talk about fulfillment. I got to work with really big clients. I mean, Allen Iverson was a client of mine. His basketball is right behind me, signed for me. I got a bunch of sports people I worked with, people that have signed books I've worked with. But there was something that was just empty. It was right. I had to wear a suit, work uptown, made 6 figures. It was great. But I was like, there's something that's missing there. Mm-hmm. And that's what I went out to solve. And what really made me happy, I loved working with business owners. I loved doing that. I loved making a difference. And then I had a family friend pass away from an opioid overdose. And I just said, there's no excuse for that. That shouldn't happen in my backyard. Mm. So I took that personally, very much like the Michael Jordan meme, and then I took that personally. So I went out and did something and came home, told my wife, I said, "I'm going to open up a facility. We're going to help people with Medicaid. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I know a doctor. I know a guy that has real estate. I'm going to put them together and just try and make it work. And we did. May 31st, 2019 was our first day doing that. And I made a ton of mistakes along the way, and really implementing that, I was able to learn so much within that field that a lot of that transferred over to the digital marketing side. But that's really how the mission started. And just came home. I said, we're not going to have any excuses for this anymore. I know there's people that are impacted by that, individuals and families. As I said, enough's enough.
Thanks for sharing that. So tell me just a little bit about the job itself. Like, what specifically do you do? What is the problem you're solving now? You've
Right.
created a facility for people who are having mental health problems, addiction, things of that nature. But what exactly is, I guess, the role that you're playing, if I can kind of get to the bottom
Yeah,
of that?
sure. So I'm not a provider, medical provider, I don't pretend to be. So when I started the facility, I said I'll handle everything. So outside of seeing patients. So I was in charge of getting clients there, branding, making us be known online, answering the phones, scheduling them, making sure they come in, making sure when they come in, they have to do a urinalysis. Like I was analyzing pee samples. I literally went from wearing a suit, making a six-figure job to making no money for 9 months, working there and owning the facility, working with high name people to wearing scrubs and at some points analyzing pee samples, right? And so I did literally the exact opposite for most people think, okay, you must be super happy. No, I was literally doing all the dirty work, following up with them, making sure they reschedule and continue to follow up through their journey. And that's where a lot of the headaches that I learned just firsthand, how do we get on top of Google for 485 for the people that aren't from Charlotte? I was saying it's a big loop around Charlotte. We're in South Charlotte. So 10 miles up, 10 miles the other way on 485, I would put these ugly yellow signs that said Suboxone Clinic Medicaid accept in our phone number. And I was getting about a 30% show rate. And a lot of people, it just wasn't, we weren't able to make that big of an impact. And I realized, okay, how do I get more? That's through the digital space. And I talked to a lot of other companies that, we're going to charge way too much money for what we were making. It wasn't worth it. So I had to teach myself how to do it. And that's kind of how Antilles Digital Media came about. Was it's like, if I want to help more people and do that, that's just the way to go. And so I was self-taught on everything. So doing all the day-to-day from what a front office person, administrator, answering, calling insurance companies, VOBs, pharmacies, I was literally doing everything. And then at night I was studying and learning website design, search engine optimization, how to get to the top of Google, marketing. But so much of the marketing that I learned was really the day-to-day conversations with clients. And so that's how it kind of evolved. And like you said, when we got to the top of Google, everyone started to call, especially with COVID, because they couldn't send out business development. And they're like, I want what you have. And that's how it led into it.
So you have the recovery facility, the mental health and recovery facility, and then the integration of between that and the marketing company is through the process of building the recovery center. You understood how to grow and expand that and scale that through SEO and all the different things that you just talked about, digital marketing, which is when you launched the digital marketing agency. And you exclusively now work with similar types of facilities, mental health, addiction, that sort of stuff. That's like your zone of
That's who we
genius.
target. Yeah, that's where we target. And we have a unique advantage. One, I mean, what I always like to say within getting those clients, right? With so many other marketing companies, they just say, hey, we're just going to do Google, we're going to do Google ads, we're just going to do this and they're going to run it. But they don't understand the personal aspect behind that. Because the truth is, when you're going to try and reach someone, typically for those higher level services, more acuity, like a detox or a residential facility, it's not an individual you're targeting, it's a family member or loved one. Because the person that you would actually serve would be the individual, but that individual has severe addiction, mental health issues where their frontal, precortex, it's not firing. They don't have the decision making or the rationality. So it's understanding what actually the people that you're marketing towards a larger amount, what they're thinking, what they want. And I know that because I've been and worked with families in crisis. I've talked to them. I've walked them through that process. So an example I'll give you is a lot of people will reach out to us and say, hey, we just have marketing. We have a landing page. We have all the basic stuff, but they're missing the human element. They'll say, okay, it's the best facility in the world, but it looks like everything else. And I said, okay, now put your shoes. And how we do it is if I'm a parent and I open up my son's drawer and I see that there's fentanyl pills, what happens? What am I thinking? I'm scared. I think I'm alone. I'm the only person that's ever been through this. A lot of times I've been purposefully ignorant or trying to hide this or shield my child from that. I don't know what to do. I'm lost. So when we go and work with the facility, say if that's who we're targeting, what do we need to do? We need to lower the temperature. We need to show them that, hey, we're not going to think you're a bad parent. We're going to show them, not tell them why we're the best. We're going to highlight and meet them where they're at and show family members, alumni. I'm a mother that also dealt with this. I was worried my son was going through this with going through this program. This is where they're at now. The word I hate to use in this industry is normal, but a lot of parents are thinking, I just want my son to be normal. I see all these other kids that are getting married and having kids, and my son isn't doing that. That's not normal. The truth is, there really is no normal. That's just not his normal, or that's what your perception of normal is. So when we can really show and relate to parents and show them why we're actually going to solve the problems and highlight our successes and what we do, when you go to that website, or if I'm a parent again, and 80% of the people we work with or their clients have been somewhere else before. So if you look, sound just like everyone else, why would they expect the results for their child to be any different? And that's just what we know by working with these people day in and day out, having real conversations and getting real breakthroughs. And that's what we get. So when someone goes to one of our clients' websites, within 15 seconds, they're going to know this is completely different than anything else I've ever seen. And that starts with your immediate impression of the website.
I hear a lot of horror stories of this industry. You read a lot of things that go on, maybe ethics, one of the things that you hear about a lot about. I've read stories about abuse, things of that nature, a lot of political stuff, a lot of financial stuff. And it's sort of from my perspective, it can be a very messy space. And it sounds like, it sounds like you
right.
sort of feel that way. It's full of a lot of people who maybe say the right things, but deep down on, underneath the layer after layer, there's a lot of bad motivations behind it, right? And you said something in your intake form that, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically people assume everyone in the marketing world around SUD and mental health is a scumbag chasing profit over people. And yet you've built a company that literally flipped that narrative. So I want to talk about that for a minute. How do you operate and run a business ethically in an industry that's built on some manipulation, some margins, and how do you protect your purpose of what you're operating from being swallowed by this grind?
Staying true to our beliefs. Every single person that I hire has been personally impacted, either personally or firsthand, from addiction or mental health issues or crises, because they understand the mission of what we're doing. They understand that. I don't want people that are here like, hey, I'm just a sales guy, and nothing against sales guys, right? I mean, typically that's what you think. I just need a sales guy. To me, I want our entire business to be, here's our examples of how we're helping people. And what I just call indisputable social proof. When you go to either like our landing page or you go to what we do, all we talk about our case studies or testimonials. Let that sell itself. And we stay true to who we are. We offer a 60-day money back guarantee. We offer results. We're here to help change people's lives in an industry that we know. So again, it goes back to me, understanding marketing is really identifying with your ideal avatar of who you're working with. And if I know what you want, what you've been through, what your perceptions are, true or false, I know that I hate to say sell you anything, but I can relate to you. So when I work with clients, we say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you every single thing you need up front. We're going to be completely transparent. We're going to give you all the analytics, everything. But at the end of the day, we call it our two-prong approach, where you need to get people to go to your website. We need to get you ranked at the top of Google. But we also need to get people that actually reach out and reach those people and connect with them. And we know that through a click-through rate, or seeing how many people go to our website to how many actively people are reaching out to start our services. And if we just get to the top of Google, but we don't have anyone that reaches out or help you grow your census and really impact more people, that's not acceptable. We have to do both. So we look at it from both. And when I can say, okay, I guarantee you in 60 days, the process that we're going to do, you walk through this with me, we're going to be in a better place in 60 days, and I guarantee it, or I'll refund you 100% of your money. So for me, I know as a facility owner, you put a lot of skin in the game. You put a lot of money, you pay a lot of people. Doctors aren't cheap. So when I know immediately what you've been through, and 90% of my clients have been burned before, and I say that, I'm starting that out with immediately go, you're the only person that does that, because I understand what you've been through. People connect with that, just like how you see people that play professional sports together, or military veterans are great. When I go and have a deeper conversation immediately, and I can speak your language and you understand me, and we've been through a lot of the same things and the same reasons why we started and do this now, you inherently trust me more, because we're coming from the same space. And that's how I'm able to get more opportunities. And the people that do sign up with us and do work with us, once we crush it for them, they'll tell everyone about us, because they know how bad the industry is. So for us, like a full circle.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. How much moral and philosophical SEO goes into what you're doing when you're working with clients? Because we just talked about some of the corruption and some of the manipulation and some of the things that are a little bit scuzzy. And you encounter a client and you sort of see that their messaging is a little bit off or whatever it is. And then you start to find out that philosophically they're not in alignment with how you believe this thing should be operated. Is there any sort of counseling or coaching or brand messaging or anything around that space? And I use that term metaphorically, moral and philosophical SEO, just as you were talking about it, sort of came to mind, like how much moral judgment is played into this, what you do?
There's a good bit. The truth is I've had family members and friends that have dealt with this personally. I know the types of facilities because owning one, I know what to look for. For example, if someone has methamphetamine addiction and they go to an outpatient office like mine, they can be prescribed different medications. They can have anxiety. There are certain medications that you can check. And a lot of this, again, there's a PNP database that says what if people are prescribed that are for providers. So I can go and see people that come to us to say, hey, I was at somewhere else. They were giving me all these things. So I've heard about places in the North Carolina market, and I know what they were prescribing, what they were doing. So actually hearing it firsthand from patients, but then also seeing as an owner, someone has methamphetamine addiction, but they're prescribing them instant release Adderall. They're giving them buprenorphine, which it's the opiate, and it's the medication. It's basically it's lab heroin because it doesn't have the opiate antagonist. So like if I have an opiate addiction, I take Suboxone, which helps me with my withdrawals and my symptoms because it is a partial opiate that goes to my brainstem, but then it has what they call the naloxone, which is the actual antagonist. So it attaches to the brainstem that rejects new opiates. So if you were to use heroin or fentanyl or anything else, your brainstem won't absorb it, your body won't absorb it, you'll end up getting sick. So what they'll do is they'll prescribe basically the stuff that doesn't stop that, instant release Adderall, which is amphetamine. When you have a methamphetamine addiction, also give Xanax, which has negative things that go along with that. So like they call it, that's the trifecta, which is basically a pill mill. So I know, are you really trying to help people, or you just want to have people that come in that pay and then you can leave? And we know there's been corruption documentaries about that. So yeah. I can see that. On the larger side, the residential side,
let me pause you there. Sir. So when you see these sort of things, what's the course of action? You bring this up, like this is a candid conversation you have with them?
If I see something that's going on like that, what I'll do is I'll check the user database, or I'll check their state med boards, because that's all public. Do they have anything against them? Are there anything that's going on? And then if they're talking about that and that's what they're doing, I'll say, okay, I've seen this before where there are facilities that can get in trouble for that. And I ask them, what's your outlook on that? And if it's anything, well, we're just going to give them what they need because that's what they do. I'll tell them, right now at this time, it's just not a good fit.
That's where I was getting. So you do make a conscious decision.
I have to, because I can't sleep at night. So one of the biggest things is there was a National Geographic show that came out called it's under Traffic. Their show Traffic on National Geographic, and it's the Great American Rehab Scam. And there's a gentleman that was featured on there. There's two. This gentleman has 50 outpatient sober living homes in California. Basically, what he does is body brokering. So he'll pay people in all states to go out and target people that have private insurances or under 26 or on their parents' insurance. Basically pay them $1,000, these brokers, to convince them to fly out to California to stay in their sober living homes where they go party. And right now, one of the lawsuits against him is from an insurance company that's about $40 million. This gentleman called me about a year ago and set up a meeting with me. I had no idea who he was at the time. That was right when all the lawsuits started. And I talked to him. He's like, I have these 50 facilities. This is what I'm doing. And I just knew, I was like, this is kind of off. And our typical price would be, say, $3,000 for one per month. And I said, okay, well, I'll take a look at everything, but just so we're being transparent, should we move forward, it would be about $150,000 a month. And he said, cool, great, no problem. And I was like, no one says that. Just say, okay, cool, no problem. Looked him up, found it out. Now that's 1.8 million a year. That's more, I'd be in the 1% within 24 hours, right? And it's like, as a good conscience, I just can't do that. So I followed up with that. And now a year later, he's on National Geographic, and that's what's going on. But those are the things that I see, and that's really what drives me and what I do there.
It always fascinates me. You made a moral decision in that moment, and in the decision itself to choose the direction you chose, it created a whole new trajectory for you. But had you not made that decision, maybe you'd be on National Geographic. It's kind of crazy. Like if you just stop and think about that from day to day in the moment, every single decision that you make has some sort of a ripple to it, right? Some sort of a ripple always ensues. And it's just fascinating that, you had the wherewithal and the self-awareness to make the decision that you made. I talk a lot about this sort of conversation with people, switching topics, this sort of idea of the iceberg of success. And now with social media, everything's a highlight reel. And I think people get addicted to sort of this highlight reel, like the things that everybody else sees, the success, the cars, the money, whatever it is that people are talking about and proliferating on social media. But there's so much more to it, especially as a founder. You've been here now for a while, so you understand what that looks like. When you look at your journey and you sort of look at the businesses that you've built, from losing loved ones to running a facility to having success now and being able to make an impact and this ripple that we just talked about, When you look at your story, what's the part of the story that people might not see about you?
When I work till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, to be honest with you, I try and be very transparent about the story that's there as much as I can. So when it comes to, advertising or clients, I want people to know, hey, what I've been through and where I'm coming from, because I think that's a really big connector, especially when it comes to other facilities. Privately, like even within friends, like they don't see my Facebook ads. They don't see the other stuff that we do as far as the marketing. I mean, I can go ask 90% of my friends right now, hey, do you know what 99%, do you know what SEO is? They'll look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, is that another football conference, right? They just don't know what that is. And a lot of the stuff that really drove me to where I'm at now, that drives me, are the things that happened when I was much younger with families, with my family, or being in my office, working with families and seeing that impact. That's a lot of things that I don't think a lot of people will understand unless they've been through it or have done that themselves. If you haven't talked to a family in Christ, if you haven't talked to someone that's hit rock bottom, that's reaching out for help, that's where I feel I really connect with facility owners and therapists in those groups, because they've done that. So it's like a group's like, oh, you know what that's been through. And the truth is, most people that start these facilities, either personally or the son, daughter, loved one, they start their own because they understand that. So a lot of the people that are actually in this industry, an overwhelming amount, and everyone that I work with really stems from that. So like we have that connection. So we're going to work with them. We're going to do all that. But I'll tell you, just on the normal day to day that people don't see, as far as like the grind, the mistakes, a lot of the stuff that people don't see is the time that's taken away from family. As we get this started, I have a 21-month-old. I have a wife that supported me through everything. My wife, I didn't make money when I started the facility for 9 months. I literally had some savings and my wife covered everything. And I told her, I said, I will make sure this is paid back. And so like there are personal things that people don't know. They might see now, some things are nice. We have a nice house or, everything. But to me, it's just not done. Like what Kobe said, job's not done.
Yeah.
We still have more work to do.
How important is it to you to surround yourself with people like that? I mean, your wife, good for her. But you are a byproduct of the people you surround yourself with. How important is it
Yes.
to have a community of people around you, whether it's your wife, whether it's your peers, whether it's your friends, or even the people that you hire? How important is that especially for entrepreneurs as they sort of start to launch and grow and scale and start to really figure out what are the ways that I can really monetize this, really create impact on this? How important is your community around you?
I think it's everything. I mean, you're a product of your environment that's there. My wife says all the time, you sleep with dogs, you're going to get fleas. The truth is, even if you're a founder, you start something, people can get lost in it, and people can get lost in money, or they'll get lost in, what they think is fame, or whatever their version of success is. To me, my version of success, when I was in my early 30s, I was making six figures. Got to wear a suit. I could be uptown every day. I felt like I was something. Like, to most people, I would assume that are young, it's like, that's what I want to do. Like, that would make me happy, but I wasn't happy. Right. And then it wasn't until I realized, okay, there's so much more beyond it. And when I see people kind of get to where they think is good, they kind of coast and they don't want to take that next step.
Mm.
And if you surround your people with are willing to take that next step, but more importantly, do it from a reason, a purpose. Like, there's a reason why I'm doing it. That's more than just, well, I want to make more money. I don't view a lot of what I do as a job, because I know when I'm working with my business owners every day and I'm talking to them, we're laughing, we're having a good time, we're talking about our successes, we're strategically planning. Like, it's always different. But everyone that does it is there because they know it's for something bigger and they want something better for themselves. So if you surround your people with that, want that for the right reason, I think it's contagious. I really do. Instead of being around people, yeah, we're just going to make more money, or we're going to buy it and then buy this nice car. And like, that's everything. They put their entire identity into that. It's like, you did all of that for what? So you could have a car, or so you could feel important. For me, the legacy for us is like, right now, with all the clients under care, we have about 25,000 individuals and family.
Wow.
And to me, that's the biggest thing. And it's like, that's the biggest thing that I could say that helps me sleep at night, knowing that we're doing something for the greater good.
Yeah, that's a big responsibility. Well done to you. Leadership, personal development, professional alignment, branding, marketing, all the things that you're doing are part of, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're running a small business. Everything that makes up who you are is somehow or other imbued in your business as a leader, as a founder, as a business owner. And I know you believe this because you said something in your onboarding form that sort of lent it towards that direction. It's a really powerful statement because it is at the core of what I do personally for my business. How does that play out in your world, especially if you're dealing with people who are not professionally, philosophically in the same alignment as you, when you're working with facility owners or you're working with business leaders? Where do you see that their leadership cracks or their philosophical cracks are compromising their business, compromising their mission, and how they actually show up professionally?
There's been a few. I've worked with a wide variety of different owners, founders, and there's a point, I think, when the money kind of takes over or their own personal like assessments of who they are or where to be honest with you, sometimes like get complacent, like we've made more money, but then we spend more money, then we need to make more money. And then now I've overdone myself to the point that I can't ever go back. So I'll do anything that I can to keep it as is. And to me, I think that's where the fine line of ethics, leadership, I think that's where that really starts to wear down, because as you make more, but then you want to keep up, and then now you got to chase that again. And a lot of times it's like with addiction. It's like we did that. Okay, now we got to build this up. Now we got to keep going, keep going, keep going. And then that's where like, okay, well, I will put anything else because now I'm so far behind. I have to get there. And that's where we talk about legal issues. That's where a lot of the legal issues come into play, is because they did it for so long, and they were like, okay, well, I was trying to chase something, and then now that's the only thing that matters. So that's where we see a lot. I have personally seen that from two or three. Yeah.
How do you keep yourself in check with that same conundrum? How do you not allow success to become an addiction to you? Whether it's financial, whether it's impact, how do you manage that?
Man, I grew up middle class. I worked since I was 15. I've always had that mindset. And I think growing up, I had part of my family that has been extremely successful. You're old school Charlotte, right? I mean, you're in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like Price's Chicken Coop. Like,
Yeah.
you remember Price's Chicken
Yeah.
Coop? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my great uncle. That started that. My other family member on my grandfather's side was the CEO of Lance. And that was on like that side of the family, like the extended family. But with mine, that wasn't ours. So I got to see at a very early age men in my life that were very successful. And they didn't let it get to their head. They kind of always had the same thing. Hey, we're here to just do this. I've had mentoring before. I've mentored others. For me, a lot of it changed, honestly, when my son was born 21 months ago. It was that moment where I realized that, it could be selfish. I could do this, but none of that matters for me anymore. Growing up with a single mom, there were things that I know that we couldn't do or couldn't afford. Not that my dad was a deadbeat, like he was there, like I had to see him. So it's not like that, but there were just certain opportunities that I couldn't have had maybe if it was different. And for me, knowing that, my only goal and mission in life, now that I see and what I get fulfillment out of, I know what that is. So that's what I chase. I chase that fulfillment personally, and I get that fulfillment from helping others, making sure my son is going to be taken care of, my family is going to be taken care of, not for myself. I'm not one of those people. My wife gets on me all the time. I still drive my 2013 Honda Accord. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, you need to get a car. You earned it. You've earned it. You've done this. I said, I have, but that's not what drives me and motivates me. My thing is that my team's taken care of. We continue to help more people because that is what is a priority to me.
I love that. I have a 2011 Toyota 4Runner, so I beat you on the year, the vintage.
Yeah.
What's the difference
it's
between? Oh, go ahead.
No, it's good. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like you can have a status symbol, but that status symbol, just like we talked about on social media, people always post their highlight reels.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I could go buy a new car. You know what I like more than not having a new car is I don't like having a car payment. My wife's 2024 Mercedes, I bought that for. It's like, cool, you have that. That's what you want. Great. That's what I'm going to do.
I will tell you, I did splurge. I've always wanted an OG Land Cruiser, and I hired a broker to actually go out and find one for me. And I did splurge in the last year on something that I've always wanted for a long time. It's sort of like, I believe that you should reward yourself for your hard work. So I'm really a big believer in sort of like, I set a goal. This is what I want to accomplish. And when I accomplish this goal, this is what I'm going to do with that. And so that was sort of like my motivation behind it. What's the difference to you between, you said fulfillment a minute ago. What's the difference between fulfillment and success?
So I think they're both extremely subjective, right? When we say success. So I can say, okay, I want to get to this much in revenue, I want to get this many clients and all this many, individuals and families. And to me, success can range to someone has a company that's worth $50 million. Okay, they get $2 more million. That might not be big for them, but you look at 99% of the country, they'd kill for that.
Yeah.
People see it on the news every day, right? And that's what they think success is. So for me, the way I look at success is what a lot of times society tries to say is successful. And then fulfillment is where you find your kind of joy, where you kind of find your peace, where you're content and you're happy. And that's what really motivates you. So for me, when I chase fulfillment, I chase what I know is going to make me personally be at my game, put my head on my pillow at night. And if I can do that, that's just one equation of success. Success to me is also making sure that my son's taken care of, that physically I'm able to take care of myself, and I'm mentally sharp, that I can influence others in a positive way. And to me, if I can do all those, that's success to me, not just money, but fulfillment is what is it that you do that helps you put your head on your pillow at night and sleep soundly.
You've mentioned your son a couple of times. What has becoming a father done for you? How has it changed you?
I think it puts a lot of things in perspective that are what's really important. And my personal relationship with my father, since they divorced when I was young, is better now. Obviously, that he's moved back east. He moved out to California, so most of the time I will only get to see him for 2 months out of the year. So it was a very different dynamic. So for me, with my son, I've said, okay, I want to make sure that I create these memories or these things that I might not have been able to do for myself. And a lot of that is being there in the moment, which is a really big priority, making sure that I don't miss any of his stuff that he does outside of it. And that kind of shapes how I run the business and what I do to make sure that I can do those things. And sometimes it's a tough dynamic when we're trying to grow the company. We hired a couple new employees just the past couple of weeks and like getting them trained and onboarded. So it's making sure that he's my priority, putting things away for the future, not going getting a car because I'd rather put money away to save for him for the future. I think the biggest thing it's done for me, and a lot of my friends have said this before, is I talk a lot less about myself and more about my son. And they can see like that's where it was. And, when I'm making money and I'm by myself, or it's just me and my wife, I can go and afford to do more things for myself. Now, that again, we talk about priorities,
Yeah.
fulfillment. That's what makes me fulfilled.
I'm a father as well. I have two teenage daughters. I've raised them by and large by myself, and I will say the answering the same question for myself. And I appreciate what you said. It's a game changer being a parent. But for me, it's probably been two of my biggest lessons in terms of learning how to just show up as a better human, raising two children and kind of making sure that they were taken care of. I had a very disgruntled background growing up as well, like you did. And so, one of the things that I've made a mission of my life is to make sure that they didn't have to go through the same bullshit that I went through. Like that's been one of my primary impetuses for being a father. When you think about your kid, he's 21 months old. I heard you say, is that right? 21 months old. And you look at your childhood and the situation you had with your father. What are some of the things that you want to impart to your children, to your child, and if you have more children, that you didn't get as a kid yourself growing up, that you want to look back and say, this is what I set out to do. I did it. My son feels this, my son feels that, whatever. What are some of those things that you really think are the most critical parts of being a father to you?
Being a role model, someone that's there. My mom was great. It's not easy for my mom to, work jobs and raise two kids and do that, which is why, I was working when I was 15 to, help do that, take stress off of her. The biggest thing for me is, like I said, being present, being there as someone to talk to, as a man growing up into being, going through those middle school, high school years, just like with a girl, but it's, a different, right? For me, there wasn't that male person to go talk to about that and to help understand things and to make things a little bit more clear and to kind of help guide that. And it was always kind of uncomfortable having to go to my mom to ask certain questions or to do that. So I think that's a big one, just making sure that I'm there to be a role model. The biggest thing I say difference wise is just to try and be a positive male influence to show what that's like. A lot of the communities that I work with are minority, lower income level. Whether that's in Las Vegas, we have some in Detroit, we have some in Chicago. We have a lot of those where it's people that don't look like me, that don't have the same upbringing as me. So it's completely different. So getting and actually going on site and working with them and talking to them, there's a lot more similarities than I would say the media tries to make that out to be. But the biggest thing that I connect on with them is, the father figure that's not in the home immediately is there. And I know that's a big talking point for, some stuff on political talk shows, but for me, I found that it's very true.
Let's go there for a minute because I think you and I have the same philosophical belief around that. Being a man, being a father, there does seem to be some rhetoric around attacking sort of the role that men actually play in society and the important factors. I mean, I'm not denigrating the role of a woman. I truly
They're
believe
different. They're completely different roles.
Yeah, and I truly believe in the balance of both. They're necessary. If there's a claim for marriage, it's having that feminine masculine balance in it. And I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but there is an attack underway, and I don't really understand where it's coming from or why, but it's really really, I mean, you're proof of it. It's like having the role that a strong male mentor plays in your child's life or just in society in general. So it's really interesting to see where this is going to play out. You said something earlier, being a mentor for your child. And I want to back up for a second because I think you and I both, we've already sort of slightly touched on this, that intersection between who you are as a human, that personal development, right? And then how that shows up in your business, that professional alignment. And it's the work that I do. And you've touched on it several times. And one of the things that you said in your onboarding form is you guys are trusted advisors. And then you use mentor to your father or to your son. So you can sort of see the parallels that you've already drawn and how you show up as an individual. How important is that it's not a buzzword to you either. I'm like listening to you talk, like you've literally the rhetoric that you're sharing with me is centered around advising and mentorship and being a trusted advisor and showing up for people and personal responsibility and self-awareness. Like all of this comes out in your conversation with me. So what does being a trusted advisor, being a mentor to your son, what does that actually look like in practice for you as a business owner?
Being for my son as a business owner, like for him, it's just making sure that I set up my team and the way that I work to be able to have a schedule that allows me to put him first, that allows me to have more flexibility, a lot more flexibility than where I had before. And I'll never be able to step away 100%, right? Because a lot of what we do is my understanding of the industry because I've started it. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with in other industry and other facilities we work with. They're like, dude, you're a one of one. Like I'm going with you because you can get results. You make a guarantee and no one else does. But it's like, but no one understands what it's like. I know what it's like. And then when a facility owner says that to me, they're like, we've been through the same thing. So again, I'll go back to like the veterans and people that play professional sports, the people that have been through the same shit together and done the same things. Like there's an inherent trust that's there. So for me as a business owner to make sure for my son, it's to set the right morals to make sure that everything that I do is it's something that if my son sees, whether it's online, whether it's this podcast, whether it's whatever, that I can look back and say that's my dad.
I love that.
Right. What is it that he would do? Because we know the internet lasts forever. And it's like, okay, every single day. So we talk about clients that we want to work with and sign. If I sign someone that is doing something unethical and then they go down, it's like, well, they were on their bottom of their website. It says fueled by Antilles Digital Media. Could the person that we have possibly brought them that had a terrible experience, or that was taken advantage of, or all the criminal stuff that we talked about that happens, if they went there because of me and what we did,
Yeah.
That's what I don't want. So like, why do we do that? Again, kind of go back to that real quick. Like, why do I take the time to do that? Because that's why.
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. They're primary my largest audience. And one of the things that I noticed about entrepreneurs is they're some of the most addicted people I personally know. And I don't mean substance addiction, but work, control, building something. Like there is a form of addiction to it. And if you're not self-aware to sort of see how that can creep into your life, it can really quickly become a problem, right? It can affect your relationships with your partners, with your children, your health, like all of those things get in the way, right? And you've seen addiction on both sides, but personally from substance, and now you can see it on, what I just talked about. So how do you manage that? How do you see that same pattern of addiction, whether it's showing up in your leadership, whether it's showing up in your business, whether it's showing up in your life, and how do you manage that and keep that under control?
Yeah, so I think everyone has something of some sort. That doesn't matter. There's something that drives us. I think when we talk about addiction, to your point, it's a control issue. What I see a lot of, it's like no one else can do this. For most business owners that I've worked with that are high level, they know that no one can run their business but them. They know it. And the hardest part where they try with control is, okay, fine, don't find two people, find three people. Take your job, divide up into three different segments. Can one person do 1/3 of your job? Yeah. That a lot of them like, yeah, okay, for that part, okay. Have someone that doesn't have them only do that. Right. And so we can re-give control that way a little bit, or they're addicted to the success of their, and again, whatever they feel that is, a lot of times it's money. So they start making something, they chase that. Well, now I'm addicted to it because if I don't have that, it's not going to fuel everything else. And then I have to do it or my life's not going to be the same, or everything else comes crumbling down. Or it's like, to me, not an addiction, but something that really motivates me is when we have clients that are having amazing success and they're bringing in more people, we're impacting more. That to me hits me different. That hits me with a dopamine release where I'm just like, I know we're impacting people, mainly because I went through that myself with my family members. So everyone that we work with and we kind of have a success, it's like that person has a family, probably has a nephew or a son that could be me. And it could be the people that we work with. So it's like when we know it's just not individuals, it's family members that we're impacting. It's potentially you or another one of my employees that has been through this personally or through a family. So for me, it's like I know we're just making a difference, and that hits me different. And we keep it in check because when we work with that, we see a lot of it. I've seen a lot of the negative impacts of that, whatever those addictions would be, in a wide variety, and I've seen a wide variety of different ways. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned in doing this is to be able to identify what you're not good at. And I know I'm not good at this. I know sometimes I'm not good at making more time away, or I'm not good at, sometimes after work putting my phone down, or I'm not good at the, and then so that's a way of like saying, okay, well, I just have a phone problem. But if I say, okay, well, I'm not the best at doing this, I can work on that. So so we would say, well, that's just a problem, right? And a lot of people say, well, that person is just an alcoholic, or they're just a drug addict, or they're just crazy, right? But instead, if we were to flip that around and say, there's something that's going on that's causing that, or something that's actually doing that, and we can actually solve the root cause of that. And not just say, okay, well, they just need to stop drinking. Well, they're going to fill that with something. So for me, it's just really just being honest with myself and saying, okay, I can work better at this. Or if I say, hey, I don't have time for that, it's like, you can't say that. And I tell my team that, and I tell my clients that. It's like, well, I just don't have time for that meeting. I say, don't say you don't have time, say it's not a priority. Because when you change it to say I don't have time, or say it's not a priority, if it is something that's important, if I say, hey, son, I just don't have time. And if to go hit a baseball with you, or to go outside and play ball, instead, if I think, well, just playing ball is just not a priority to me, because that's basically what you're saying, because that's what they're hearing, that's what they're internalizing. Then you realize, well, I don't mean that at all. Well, that is a priority to me. Well, then what do I need to do to make sure I make time for that, or that happens? And I make that a priority. It's like you have to act on everything, and you have to look at everything in a certain way where you're like, okay, if this is a priority and this is what I need to do, you're going to think at things differently. So I think a lot of it when it comes to the addiction side is people get caught up in too much, or they're not framing things a certain way where they realize what their real priorities are.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that self-awareness, because everything you just said, there's centers around having some awareness around that, which ultimately leads to your ego, which is an interesting point, a good segue, if I may. I think especially early on as entrepreneurs, and I'm guilty of this in my first business, I thought I could be all things to all people, and I literally took on anything and everything that was paying me money, and I really burned out really quickly in that space. So how did you learn? Because I think you sort of have struggled with this as well, right? This sort of this ego that you can be all things to all people. And you've really zoned in on sort of who your niche is and who your audience is and the type of people you enjoy working with. How did you learn to let that go? Or how did you learn to come into the fact that you can't be all things for all people and very specific type of audience that you actually can have the most impact on?
Same way. People said, hey, can you do this? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah, sure, I can do that. I can do that. So I kind of stretch myself. But the truth is, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to SEO, when it comes to a lot of that, it's easier when you have people in the same industry, the same questions, the same types of content that you're putting out. We just need to personalize it or customize it based on who our client is. And when I would have clients that would do HVAC, electrical, weight loss, everything, so now I'm talking about 50 different topics that I don't really know a lot about. And I can't have a real conversation with someone and really understand their business to the level that they do. So for me, it was honestly, I had to do it and realize that's not for me. The biggest mistake I see people make is failing to even try to make a mistake. Like if you're just like, I just can't do that. No. Have you tried it? No. Then how do you know? So for me, it's like, I want to grow the company. How do I need to grow it? Here's what I can do. And it's just being honest. When you make a failure, you can pivot. Or, I say people make errors, they make mistakes, and then it becomes a habit. So if we see something, or you make an error, okay, well, it's an error, right? We just don't do that again. But why did we make that error? Let's make sure we don't do that again. If you keep doing it, okay, well, then you're making the same mistake over and over again, right? You're not learning from it. And then if you don't keep stopping it, then it becomes a habit. And we know habits are the hardest things to break. So it's a lot of times what we deal with clients in the substance abuse field, right? You had something that caused something that then caused that and kept doing it. And now all of a sudden you're chasing something. Now all of a sudden that's your habit, whether it's smoking cigarettes, whether it's gambling, whether it's running a business and not giving up control. That's now your habit to do everything for everyone. I think a lot of that is just, again, taking an honest look.
You said that you want to be remembered for one simple idea, that doing the right thing and making a difference is as easy as showing up and caring. Tell me what that means.
Just like the first time where I picked up a phone and, hey, how are you? Someone called at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. Hello, are you a robot? No, I'm a real person. I mean, I could feel it through the phone. I could feel the stress release. I could feel that person go, there's someone here that might give me a slimmer of hope to make a difference. And literally all I did was hello. That's all I did. And I realized that's the difference between marketing and getting a phone call and actually helping change someone's life. And
If someone listening to this show right now sort of is touched by some of the things you said, and I have been, so thank you for sharing your message. I really appreciate it. Who do you really want to work with the most? Who are the type of people that you want to connect with?
so the people that I want to connect with are people that have a purpose for their business and what they do, right? And what I say all the time is if you can't tell me a value differentiator between you and anyone else that does what you do in your industry, how am I able to market or sell that to anyone else? Like if you as the business owner don't understand that. So people that have a business with purpose, people that are trying to improve and do better. I say life is a constant process of self-improvement. No one's ever a finished product. But if you feel, well, I don't want to improve, I don't want to do that. Okay, then you're stagnant. Okay, that's fine. We're here to improve. We're here to iterate. We're here to make things better, whether it's online, whether it's marketing, whether it's the processes, whatever it is. And that's what we want to do. So I want to connect with like-minded people that are in that position to always be improving and always be open to that, and open to learning. The business owners that we mainly work with, again, are in the medical field. We've started recently working with a lot more dentists. We have a couple of dental groups that have some pretty large groups of 30 plus locations, which are great. So we do a lot with dental, really anything in the medical. To be honest with you, I don't charge for consultations when we talk to people. It's always what's your brand message, and if I can connect with that, I'm going to help you one way or another, because I know that if we can make a difference and not overextend myself, right, not be everything to everyone, but if you're on a mission to grow and scale and you have a purpose behind it, I want to be a part of that, whether it's us or whether it's someone else that I know that I can connect you with. Because if I can just be a small piece of your story, just like we were within the addiction field, I know when your story is read and it's known that we help play a small piece in that success. And that to me is amazing.
That's great. Real quickly, what's your value differentiator?
100%. We offer 6-day money back guarantee. No one else does that. We work with people directly. Every single business owner has my cell phone, and we guarantee results. We're just no games. We're no gimmicks. I say it all the time. We're no bullshit. When it comes to people in the addiction industry, they're the best bullshit detectors that you have, right? Because a lot of times that's how they live their life. Yeah. And what I say is this, like, we're here to completely show you how we're going to help you. We're going to get you the results. We're going to work with you. Antilles is named after a Star Wars character called Wedge Antilles, which was Luke Skywalker's wingman. And I did that because I wanted to be a wingman. That's how I was. But, Goose and Top Gun ends up, sadly not making it. But Wedge Antilles was like my second favorite. So for Antilles, our story is we're going to be your wingman. We're going to be right there by you. It's not our story, but we're going to be right by you the whole way to guide you to make sure that you get to where you're going. And that's our job. And when we take that as a business and what we do, we're going to be open, honest, transparent. We're going to give you everything. We empower you to do everything and make the right decisions that help you run your business. A lot of times we work our way out of jobs because we automate and help them get their processes set up, but they keep us on as consultants because we were the only company that were able to do that for them. So one of the value differentiators is when we're done with everything, typically after a year, we've empowered you to run it yourself without us, but clients still keep us on because we help them get there because we've been such a great wingman.
Well, I mean, that's a testimony in your impact itself, just the fact that they no longer need you. You've done your job. So aside from being a Star Wars nerd and a family man, what else do you do to keep your game on point outside of work?
Go to the gym. I do triathlons, try and stay competitive. I like to always have a goal in mind when I do anything. I think it helps motivate me to say, okay, like you have something coming, right? You better make sure you're ready for it. And that's how I kind of look at it in business. If I know, hey, we have this coming up, we have this milestone, like we need to be ready for it. We need to prepare for it. And I think the most prepared people are going to be the ones that are most likely to succeed. If we can always stay prepared and know what's going on, we'll be ready for anything.
Yeah. Preparation planning leads to execution. Well done. I appreciate your message. It's a really good podcast we had. I love a lot of the things you had to say. Where's the best way people can find you online, social media? What's the best place?
Yeah, find us at antillesdigitalmedia.com, ANTILLES digitalmedia.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anything. My personal's on there, Lee Black. Find us any way that we can. Send us an email. Everything's on the website. Fill a contact form. It goes right to us and our contact teams. Anyone's interested, we're going to reach out and set up a consultation completely free to make sure that we can help you and be that perfect wingman for you.
Or at the Star Wars convention at Comic-Con.
Yeah, or we can do that. We'll see. I might have little man as Yoda or something.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm not making fun. I love Star Wars. If you actually showed at my house, I have a 5.5-foot Darth Vader that sits on the front doorstep. So greedy.
I love it. I love it.
There's so many different conversations. There's so many different metaphors in the Star Wars movie for me. Anyhow, I digress. Lee, I really appreciate you being here. Dude, for some reason, I don't know how I didn't draw the connection that we're both in Charlotte, but we should catch up and meet up in person. Would love to do that
Yeah,
with you.
for sure.
All right.
100%.
I'll have Marielle or Ira reach out to you and get something scheduled.
Perfect, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here on the Branding Laboratory.
Thank you, brother. Talk to y'all soon. Thank you.